Life back then sucked.
What do you think? We'll see how it goes. This is our first time doing it. So, put it in the bag. Put it in the bag.
Someone had some parts before that.
Yeah, we did. We actually made some scotch eggs this morning. We finished up with the bacon and there was some hard-boiled eggs in there. Yeah.
Had the run.
Just time. We'll handle it. You're not. You're not very good there. Oh.
Family. My wife. And when our kids were little,
Access more than what the rations were.
whatever you want me to be.
Whatever, now I want you to be Phoenix. Here's the deal.
Oh, I could do it.
So is today's event just a representation of the
Without
camp?
any gear, without
This was supposed to represent Washington's Army this weekend. They do it once a year. And then there are a lot of different reenacting groups that came this weekend for this.
So you're going to join up with two
So if you didn't know this was here, you just came on a special weekend.
Yesterday they did a mail call and they asked me to be there.
This is the 7th Virginia, so a lot.
So when it was time for
We live in Virginia. We just moved here, so this is our first weekend with this particular group. But then the second north is over there, so they're based out in North Carolina.
And I just
then
read
there's
it.
groups from
I'm
Dublin.
with the letter. You two and Jerry and Rodney walking past the street with fence posts.
Are we letting the fire die, Sarah?
I believe so. Let's ask.
We'll have.
So what's the setting you work
What's more 21st century than a guy with a selfie stick and a GoPro on the end of it?
I take it the canvas is no more?
No,
Because I could feel it going when I went down.
You made a good photo shoot. Thank
Oh, who did I just, whose chair did I just
you. And
do?
that's not
Mine, Daniel's right behind.
Oh, I'm very, very sorry.
You had a hole in it.
$75 for that, did you? $75? Well, I got the canvas. What happened to my...
assisting me getting him up.
Oh, no. I'm just
he's
looking.
good.
He's good, yeah. I was just looking for my...
Well, maybe you can claim a war.
leave the dead where
maybe
they
you can
lie.
claim
There's no
a war
sense
wound.
running the risk of infections.
Dutchman. Face. To the right about. Face.
They sent it in Asian.
Advance. Barla.
The guy in the blue.
Okay, on your way.
Blue jacket.
You will get on a window. Then you will tell me what you're not going to do.
Barla.
No. Would you? No. No.
Pull up the rug.
Line up. I'll take you can call that jacket.
I'll go step you to the other side.
Right, so right. Go for it. Marla.
Yeah.
Have any of yours stayed in it?
Mine is not. I thought my daughter was going to come this weekend. She actually got married this weekend.
In the event?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right down here.
Is that stuff mushroom? Don't come in there. Don't come in there.
He wants to see the food. He's a foodie. Come through there. If
you got in trouble, the neighbor's mom would straighten your butt up. Nowadays you go to jail.
It's like if you get in trouble at school, then you can't get worse. Exactly. We're trying to train something.
Is that just mustard
It's
or?
mustard, it's got some vinegar in it, apple juice in it, and salt and pepper.
Oh, good.
There. So I'm just going to add it to the onions there, and then they'll just cook.
They're going to get that way before that chicken's ready.
Well, we can pull them off, right?
Yeah. Yeah, kids realize that have dinner. Get started early.
To the right. Wheel. Front. That's right. Obliquely. Left. Front.
He said obliquely left, as in.
Hi, what are you doing?
Hey, buddy. Sure, just stay on this side.
On this side?
Get out of the way.
This one doesn't kind of hard to do. A lot of these you can get them get the whole car.
How does the horse feel?
I'm touching a horse. It's not my first time.
Have you never pet a horse before? Oh, go with the fur. Don't do that. Go with the fur.
You can ride in one. Look it.
Feel how strong it is? Feel how strong it is?
Yes. I'm in this one.
This is a captain and ranger.
Girls, look here.
Nice.
That's actually a wheel.
So I'm assuming getting kicked by a horse would be really painful.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that wouldn't feel good.
How did they get the horseshoes on?
There's a farrier that puts them on. So you actually have to pick up the hoof or the leg and you hold it. You have to nail them on.
Does that hurt?
No, it doesn't hurt them. Those are like fingernails, but no, it doesn't hurt them.
Mommy, it looks so amazing. Mommy, you can have a lot of No, let's go back.
Aw, he looks kind of sleepy.
12:35 on the Royal Carriage.
No more tickets available.
He's like nibbling on the chewing on it.
Okay, please come around the front of the horses. Ma'am, 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 ma'am. Please stay on this side of the rail. Thank you. Sir, we always want you to stay in front. We don't want you next to their sides because they have on blinders and they don't know you're there. And tickling them like that, they could think you were perhaps a fly, maybe cow kick. Just always good to stay in front where they can see you, just for your safety.
How you feel about?
You make reservations in the ticket office right up there. You're welcome. Well, to be honest with you, we don't really.
So you read about these guys taking cases in 5 or 6 different counties in the area. The nice thing is all the county court days are staggered. So in this county, our court day is the second Monday each week.
Yeah, we still have some Florida counties where the judges surprise circuit, and they're only Tuesdays and Wednesdays.
We wouldn't call it panel this time if we don't really have a circuit. Because the justice.
Very next night, on April 21st, is when Marines from the palace under Dunmore's orders come over and they use the key to get in downstairs, they open the door and they remove the majority of our gunpowder. Now, as a result of this, really the colony is divided into thirds, and ultimately the United States, you could say, during this war is divided into thirds. Now, 1/3 of the people are outraged by this. They see this as a huge breach of our own public trust, that our own governor is removing our ability to defend ourselves. Why would he do this? So we are outraged at this, incensed, to the point where there's individuals gathering in front of the courthouse deciding whether or not to riot and storm the governor's palace demanding return of the powder. Fortunately, cooler heads under Peyton Randolph prevail, and they convince the town to dissipate. So it's kind of de-escalated. But another third of the perspective, though, you might look at this and say, well, that's the government going into its own building with its own key, removing its own property. So that's entirely the government's business. Last third says you two fight it out and let me know who wins. So that illustrates between the Patriot side, the Tory side, and ultimately those who just want to be on the winning side. So that's the type of issue, that divisive matter that you see happening here in Virginia, but ultimately this is going to start to propel us towards our own pursuit of independence. So that's April 21st. Now, as to the structure of the building itself, as what we're storing here, we do have 3 levels of storage designed to be stored by weight. So on the first level is where we store all the heaviest items. So as you walked in, you probably saw the barrels of gunpowder that we have. Now we're storing anywhere between about 2,000 and 6,000 pounds of gunpowder. That might sound like a lot, but in truth, it's fairly modest. After all, their magazines back in England storing anywhere between about 250,000 pounds of gunpowder. Why are we so modest? Because think of where we are located. Where are we located? Specifically, this building. Right, exactly. We're in the middle of a city. Now, there is a precedent for this, because after all, this building had 500,000 pounds of gunpowder and it were to detonate, we'd have to be a significant point to capital. And there is a historic precedence for this. In the 17th century, there's an Italian town that has a magazine right in the middle of the city carrying 200,000 pounds of gunpowder. And it detonates. And it levels 8 square city blocks and kills 3,000 people. So that is why we are only going to be storing 2 to 6,000 pounds downstairs. Now also around the building, you probably notice that we have a wall. Now that is not for defensive reasons, since that would also be shooting at you. You don't want to building filled with gunpowder. So the reason that we have the wall is to function as an enclosure for artillery pieces like this howitzer, like the mortar there, like the cannons you see across the street. All of them can be parked in between the building and the wall. The gates of the night they can't be removed. So that's more or less everything we're storing on the bombs: flags, uniforms, you name it, anything that you can see really soldiers using on a day-to-day basis. So realistically, that's more or less what we are storing here. Now, finally, as you're looking around the room, the weapon that you are primarily seeing is this one right here, that being the musket. It's not a rifle, it's not a fowler, it is a musket. Now, when it comes to the musket, it is a weapon designed for warfare. Every modern nation has their own type. There are British, as it is on the outside, so there is no rifle. So it's not terribly accurate. You can all come upstairs if you like. So, not being a very accurate weapon, what it also fires, compounding this, is an undersized musket ball. So this is a 75 caliber British. So what you have ultimately is a weapon that has an effective range of about 50-ish to 100 yards. Okay. So, not a very accurate weapon. Now, in an age where we can produce the rifle, which can hit a man-sized target between about 250 and 350 yards, why on earth do you suppose we would intentionally design our master? So speed is everything with this weapon. It might take you up to about 1.5 minutes to reload and fire your rifle. Whereas with this musket, a well-trained individual can load and fire one shot every 15 seconds. So it is immensely faster. So, not only that, but it's also more reliable. Now, if you've all here ever fired a weapon before, you know there's that black stuff that kind of builds up, that carbon. So with this weapon, because of the loose fitting, 8 times and slowly. So, beyond that though, how important is accuracy on the battlefield? Now this might seem a bit counterintuitive, but whenever you fire this weapon, besides man does not take aim, that's our own General von Steuben who comes up with that, but in the British Army manual, it's present. You're pointing your weapon at-ish the enemy. So, that's really how important accuracy is possible. The idea is that this musket, again, you all keep going upstairs if you'd like to, we do have some room over here. So, the idea behind this weapon is this is a tandem weapon. Now, it's not just a firearm, it also has this.
We don't want to hear it. Read it, Sergeant.
Gives them to these guys, and then they have to say what that was to and reenact whoever that was. Say sergeants. And then
Are the soldiers pirates? Ship thinks they are. Ship thinks they are.
Artillery demonstrations.
There is no. Package. It's awesome. Sir, as per your request, 1/2 pound of fine Virginia tobacco with a hint of cherry. Bacon Brothers tobacco.
Share. Share. Share.
Oh! Doesn't look like fine tobacco we're used to.
half a pound of tobacco. Yeah. And share with all these guys. That's the same guy? Yeah. I can
Why don't you come sit down by me? Hey, Anderson.
Dogs has had enough.
Anderson. Let's go, buddy. My loving daughter and honest woman, as you know, isn't a family way.
Something about a daughter and a family.
Prior to knowing you, you as her one and only. Catherine says her heart belongs to you, so I do expect you to do the right thing. I do expect you to hear from you, or you will hear from my brother, Colonel McIntyre.
I do expect to hear from you, or you will hear from my brother, Colonel McIntyre. I think they're forcing him to marry. Yeah.
Welcome on the pit.
Steve Carter, Carolina.
Barney?
Read up! Voice, please. Read it loudly.
My friend, I must inform you, the jig is up. Make haste to the shore at Yorktown and meet the HMS Otter to take you to safety. From our presence.
I'm innocent! I'm innocent! I'm framed! I've never seen the otter!
Eagle. Very old eagle. Pregnant?
Yeah, if you want to just bring it over to us when we're done, demo, that'll work fine. Great.